Hi all, welcome to the fourth part in this series on how to create your very own text editor in Go programming language. So in this video we'll create a routine to display the status bar. So you see this magnificent status bar down below. So all the required information would be actually printed after we'll implement the function to make it. So what it does, it displays either we are in the view or in the edit mode, then the name of the source file we just opened, then the number of lines the source file has. Then if I, for instance, change the file somehow, then the modified flag goes from modified to from saved to modified, and if I just go back and save, it just gets saved. Then row and column is responsible for the position of the cursor. What else? And if I press, for instance, C to push this line into the buffer, it just says that the copy buffer is full, and I just can paste no matter how many lines, how many times. And yeah, so we got this here, and also I can do I can preserve the entire state of the buffer, the text buffer, the entire state. Undo is available, which means that from now on I can like do whatever, and then I can just by pressing L to load the data from the undo buffer. It just preserves everything as it does. Yeah, just make sure that I didn't destroy anything. So let's try the almighty build shell to make sure that still everything is working right. Yeah, it seems like. So let's start by adding import and string convert. So we're supposed to be converting integer to a string to display these row and columns in the status bar. And now we can also add all the missing variables. So literally all, at this point, to list all the variables that are actually available within the editor. So let's say variable mode, it's type int, so view and edit mode. That's pretty much all about it. Well, it could have been bool, but I don't know, maybe one day in some parallel universe I would like to add some more modes. So in that case, probably integer type is going to be just fine. Okay, so offset x, offset y, also want to say current x and current y. So these integers would hold the current cursor position. Okay, what else do we need? We also need to provide a couple more buffers. So we'll have undo buffer, which is going to be the exact copy of the text buffer, and also copy buffer, which is going to be the copy of a single line. And then we want the source file, which is the string, and the modified flag, modified, and this is bool. It's a boolean value, either true or false. Now let's scroll down here. So let's say just down below these display text buffer, I want to create a new function called display status bar. So literally what we want to do, want to create several strings, and then we want to calculate how many spaces should we append here so that the row and column would be nicely placed at the very right part of the status bar. Okay, so let's define some helper strings first. So that would be mode status first. it's good. It's easier to define the strings because we can reference their length quite easily later. So mode status type string, then copy status type string, then undo status, and that's going to be a string as well. Now I can say that if mode is greater than zero, in this case mode status is going to be equal to edit. So we are in the edit mode, right? Else mode status is going to be equal to view, because that means we are in the view mode. Great. Then we need also to calculate the file name length, because it might happen that the name of the file is too long and the string does not fit the width of how many columns is there in the terminal, and this would result in a crash, so we do not want that. So we want to say that the file name length, first let's just file name length, let's define the variable file name length. I assign the value of the length of the source file. Right, now we say if file name length is greater than 8, so I decided 8 is just like okay. In this case we said the file name length indeed equal to 8. So the idea is that if the length is just too big, that we can like strip it down to only 8 characters. Now if I go to create one more variable, well, I could have assigned this dynamically, but yeah, so file status, I think this is going to be just a little bit more readable. So file status here, so I simply say file status equals to source file indexed by, and I'm using slice in here, so whatever file name length is. So if we have the file name length less than 8, then that would be the entire source file name. If it's more, then only the first 8 characters. And then we want to print how many lines are there in the file. So plus string convert, yeah, that's another place where we do use the string convert. I to A to convert integer to string, and here the length of the text buffer, and plus lines, yes, plus lines. Okay, now the modified flag. So I say if modified, in this case file status plus equals space modified. Otherwise file status plus equals saved, right? Yes. And yeah, so let's make it a bit shorter. Like this. Just fits one line perfectly. Cool. Then the cursor position. So now things are getting interesting. This is my favorite part here. The cursor position. So cursor status equals Yeah, let's also define the cursor status. Status string. Okay, and this is going to be equal to row plus string convert integer to a string and current row -1 because indexing starts from 0 and we do not want the line 1 the line 0 for the very first line. We want to say line 1 there, so that's sorry, +1, yeah, sure, plus comma column and plus string convert E to A, and same for column, current column +1. And by the end I just want to have one empty space because you see here we have one empty space. Now if the length of the copy buffer is greater than 0, which means that there is something in the copy buffer. In this case, we say copy status equals to copy. So we just indicate that there is something within the copy buffer. And same for undo buffer. So if length of the undo buffer is greater than 0, then undo status is equal to undo, like this. Now we need to calculate the used space. Okay, what is this? So the used space, so we dynamically assign the value on the fly here. So the length of all we got here, so the length of the mode status plus the length of the file status plus the length of the cursor status plus the length of the copy status plus the length of the undo status. And that's it for now, right? Now we calculate how many spaces do we need to put here, particular. So spaces is equal to dynamically assign this as well. Okay, strings dot repeat. We need to import strings as well. Strings repeat, and we want to repeat the empty sort of string. Columns minus used space. Pretty simple and straightforward, right? And finally, we need to build the message itself. So message, again, dynamically assigning things. And now we say mode status plus file status plus copy status plus undo status, right, plus spaces plus cursor status. Yeah, and at last we can print message. Column 0, rows, no matter how many there are there. Then termbox dot color black. So I want black letters on the white background, hence the foreground is color black, and then Tombox the color white, and the string itself, so the message here. And if I did everything properly, they should actually print this status bar. But before that, yeah, so we also need to import strings. So let's do it here. Import strings. Yeah, now just try to compile and run, fix the typos, and hopefully we'll get it working. So write, quit, and my almighty build shell. Oh, okay. Okay, current row and current call. I just declared source file twice for some unknown reason, yeah. Alright. Okay, here is a typo. Okay, so it builds, but yeah, it's not going to change the output because we didn't yet call the function display status bar. So let's go to our main loop, and here we say display status bar on build, and here you go. Yeah, great. Now we have the status bar being printed nicely. We we cannot like see if there is something in the copy buffer or in the undo buffer, but we can manually populate them to make sure that everything works here. And we can also test whether the file name, long file name, is going to be handled. Yes, and what else? It's probably that's it. So let's quickly test that as well. So for undo buffer, let me just create a couple of lines here and here. Also, just to populate these two buffers. So right, there should be like, yeah, now we have this copy and undo, which is good. And also, just to make sure the source file is working, so here let's give it a long name, and yeah, it prints just the first 8 characters, and well, it's not really that nice, but the very least just avoids program from crashing. Okay, so one more thing I want to do before testing this for Windows. One more thing I want to do, so let's bring it back. So let's actually rename the offset X and offset Y to offset column and offset row. Yeah, I just want to show you guys a feature that I've added recently. So I can now do the following things. So I can use the syntax for the Linux set command. This is also going to be available for Windows. I've tested this already. So I can do the following way. So I can say offset X, substitute offset X with offset column, and I want to do this globally so that it gets changed in the entire file, and it gets changed. And the way it works is very interesting because I do call the sub process of sed command, converting the text buffer to the string, and as the byte stream I'm sending these to the sed command, and then I'm passing the output back, and from that output I reinitialize the content of the buffer. We'll cover that in the later tutorials. That is going to be very exciting, hopefully. So same substitute offset y, offset column like this globally. It's not changed only here, it's changed all over the place. And substitute current row, let's call it current row like this, global, and current call like this, global. So yeah, now we have like here, for instance, of set call, so everything has been changed. So right quit, and let's try to build again. What? Redeclaration 13.5. Well, this is interesting. What have I done? What have I done? Offset row. Yeah, now this should be it. So let's build again one last time, and then we'll try to do this for Windows as well. So now I say wine task mgr, and here file new task cmd, and here ego.executable. Alright, so we have the status bar, everything looks good. So yeah, and probably one last thing is to see whether the number of lines is also printed properly. So say ego and the own source code, and yeah, 112 lines of code here, which is good, which is exactly the number. So yeah guys, this is it from my side, and I'll catch you up in the next video.